The image seemed to say it all, as President Obama and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin headed into more than 90 minutes of talks late Monday. They managed a forced handshake. The meeting came just hours after both leaders offered diverging viewpoints on the Syrian conflict and the leadership of Bashar al-Assad. In his UN General Assembly address, Obama called the Syrian president a tyrant who, quote, drops barrel bombs to massacre innocent children. He urged the world body to unite behind a political transition in Syria that does not include Assad.
The United States is prepared to work with any nation, including Russia and Iran, to resolve the conflict. But we must recognize that there cannot be, after so much bloodshed, so much carnage, a return to the pre-war status quo.
Just 2 hours later, Putin used the same forum to criticize U.S.-led efforts against the Islamic State militant group and justify Russia's expanding military support for Syria and its leader.
We think it is an enormous mistake to refuse to cooperate with the Syrian government and its armed forces who are violently fighting terrorism face to face. We should finally acknowledge that no one but President Assad's armed forces and Kurds militia are truly fighting the Islamic State.
The two world leaders also sparred on the situation in Ukraine, with President Obama denouncing Russia's annexation of Crimea and continued aggression in the country's east.
We cannot stand by when the sovereignty and territorial integrity of a nation is flagrantly violated. If that happens without consequence in Ukraine, it could happen to any nation gathered here today.
A White House official said Obama repeated those concerns to Putin during Monday's bilateral talks, expressing concern about the implementation of the peace agreement reached in Minsk. Former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Stephen Pfeiffer.
There's little evidence to suggest that the Russians are doing anything or pushing the separatists to implement other provisions of the Minsk II agreement. And so President Obama has an opportunity to send a strong message.
A White House official described the meeting as businesslike and productive, with both sides disagreeing on Assad's role in Syria while agreeing that their militaries should communicate in order to avoid conflicts in the region. Aru Pande, VOA News, the United Nations.